His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu, who's lived pretty much half of his life in the area of Jagannath Puri Dham. And we are very fortunate. We are indebted to Prabhuji, who we couldn't get association with because of his travels, but now, fortunately, we are getting his association. We get his association through various different channels, like his Krishna Kathamrita Bindu, which we all relish every twice a month, published by Gopalji Publication, a part of Bhakti Vedanta Research Center. And so, briefly, Madhavanand Prabhu is very known to, he doesn't need any introduction. But, just to complete something, I just want to say that Madhavanand Prabhu has joined ISKCON in the early 80s, and he has been serving Srila Prabhupada and his Gurudev, Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj, right from the beginning, through his writings, through his services. He has written a masterpiece, When Good Fortune Arises, and he keeps writing, and he excavates manuscripts from leaves, and he researches, he collaborates with institutes. I mean, we can go on and on, but without further ado, just want to hear something very enthusiastic, very interesting for all of us as to how Lord Jagannath is a lover of his devotees, which is a very important topic for us to relish as we start the festivities of Lord Jagannath. So without further ado, let's welcome Prabhuji with a loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Prabhuji, you can start.
Hare Krishna. I'll just go ahead and start with a few prayers before we begin. Gora Graganya Gana Go to Goloruharam Gauranga Gudatama Gopyata Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gadaratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Tamma Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridaya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namure Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamada Prana Re Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Abhidana Parama Pumata Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandra Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishe Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajabala Bapahimam Panchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannataya Te Namaha Kadachit Kalindita Tavipina Sangita Karavo Mudabirirari Madhya Badura Madhidasam Kadachit Kalindita Tavipina Sangita Karavo Mudabirirari Nari Vadana Kamalasva Damadupa Rama Shambhu Brahma Madhapati Ganesha Chitapado Jagannath Swami Noyana Patagami Bhavatume Jagannath Swami Noyana Patagami Bhavatume. So I want to thank Hema Jagannath Prabhu for inviting me to this. It's wonderful. It's kind of ironic to me. I have to tell you a little kind of humorous thing is sometimes I tell people, especially when I'm giving class to um, Indian body devotees overseas, I tell them I'm confused who's really a Deshi and who's a Bideshi, because here I am, I'm a Bideshi. Sometimes I'm here in India and I'm speaking to the Deshi, so it becomes confusing who's really a Deshi and who's really a Bideshi. And now I'm speaking before so many of you who are Odiyabasis, who are Jagannath Priyankara Bhaktas, very dear devotees to Lord Jagannath, like Kema Jagannath Prabhu. And I'm confused. Here I'm in Orissa and generally in Jagannath Puri, and Hema Jagannath Prabhu is in New Jersey, but he's more of a Deshi than I am. So who's really a Deshi and who's really not? So I feel very honored to be part of this today. I'd like to read you a little something to begin with from Srila Prabhupada. This is Prabhupada's purport, one of his last purports that he wrote. He translated up to the 13th chapter of the 10th canto. This is from the second chapter of the 10th canto, text 29. And I'm just going to read one sentence from his. Prabhupada says, the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead all function differently, but their main purpose is prityanaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, to protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants. That's the main purpose, the main function of the Lord. When we see the Lord's devotee appear, we know the Lord is going to appear. You can't separate the two from each other. Srila Prabhupada said on Nectar Devotion lecture in 1972 in Vrindavan, that to think that one can have the Lord without the devotee is just an illusion. So when we see that Prahlad Maharaj comes, his appearance indicates and precedes the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev. When Srila Prabhupada came to the United States, it indicated that Krishna was going to, Srila Prabhupada's appearance preceded the appearance of Krishna there. So Prabhupada writes that the main purpose of the manifestations of the Lord is paritanaya sadhanam vinashaya duskritam, to protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants. And our acharyas have described it, that in this verse, these three different principles, paritanaya sadhanam vinashaya duskritam and dharma samstapana, out of these three principles, the primary principle is paritanaya sadhanam. And Vinashaya Taduskritam and Dharma Samstapana are supportive of delivering the devotees. Vinashaya Taduskritam, to destroy the demons. That's the purpose, is to protect the devotees. Dharma Samstapana means to help support the devotees. So this is the purpose of Krishna's pastimes. In the Padma Purana, Krishna describes Muhurtenapi samartam shakta yadyapi dhanavan. He says that if I desire muhurtena, in just one muhurta, just one moment, samhartam, I can defeat, I can kill all the danadas, all the demons. He says, but the real reason why I come, karomi vivida kriya, the real reason I'm appearing is madbhaktanam vinodartam. The real purpose in all my different manifestations is to give pleasure to my devotees. So just as we're mentioning these different points, in the same way, Lord Jagannath is intrinsically connected with his devotees. If there's no devotees, there's no Jagannath. If there's no Jagannath, there's no devotees. You can't separate the two from each other. So today we want to speak something about the quality of the Lord's Bhakti Vatsalya, or his quality of his affection for his devotees. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini, he says that while the Lord has many different qualities, this Bhakti Vatsalya is like a universal emperor that rules over all of his other qualities. They're all subservient to this one particular quality. That the Lord is a devotee. He's Bhakti Bhaktinam, Bhakti Bhaktinam. He's the devotee of his devotees. So we see this in the case with Jagannath. From the very beginning, you can't separate Jagannath from his devotees. As Nila Madhav, he was there for the Sabaras, which I always find it very, very fascinating that we wrote something in one of our Krishna Katamrita magazines some years ago. We called it The Hidden Identity of Lord Jagannath. And the cover of the magazine shows a picture of Jagannath during the Pahandi when he's coming out of the temple. And there's a crowd of perhaps a million devotees. And the title was The Hidden Identity of Lord Jagannath. A little humorous in a sense. But Lord Jagannath, he's very hidden, but he's hidden in plain sight. And Lord Jagannath, he's dependent upon his devotees. And in Orissa, and indeed we see in the world, we don't find any other personality who appeals to so many different devotees. Perhaps the most famous deity amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, some may say, is Radharaman, or perhaps in Vrindavan, or they may say Govindaji in Jaipur. And those two deities are two of my favorite deities. I love to have darshan whenever I can. But we note some differences between them and Lord Jagannath. In the case of Radharaman and Govindaji, it's all Hindus, it's all Vaishnavas who go for their darshan. But in the case of Jagannath, there's Shaktas, there's Shaivites, there's Ganapatnis, there's politicians, there's atheists, there's Christians, there's Muslims who come for darshan of Jagannath. There's some Muslims who take Jagannath Mahaprasad regularly. Some of the villages in Orissa, I collected some newspaper articles years ago, and many villages have Rath Yatra every year. And there's at least one village in Orissa where it's the Muslims in the village who build the Rath Yatra cart. So we can't say that about Radharaman. We can't say that about Govindaji. We can't say that about any other deity in the world. Jagannath appeals to so many different persons. But he's Bhakta Bhaktinam. He's a devotee of his devotee. And especially he comes originally to give darshan to Vishavasu, who's a pig farmer. They're not vegetarians in general. They're considered very low-class persons. But Nila Madhav appears before him. And then we know later he disappears and Indradyumna Maharaj comes and he's very disappointed. And then Narad Muni tells him that he should he should stay in Jagannath Puri, and that he should perform some Ashwamedha Yagya, Nilakanteshwar Mahadev, and he should make a temple for Adi. And Nila Madhav then appeared to Indradyumna Maharaj in a dream and told him that I'm personally going to come very soon. And so you should go to the ocean, to that place is known as Chakratirtha today, or Banki Mohan, and you should wait. And so Indradyumna Maharaj went to the beach, sat down in some kusha grass asan, and fasted, waiting for the appearance of the Lord. And there at that place known as Chakratirtha, he saw an enormous log that had 4 symbols on it, the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, the different symbols of Lord Vishnu, floating toward the land. And Narad Muni said that this log is a hair of Vishnu. Now, to this day, during the Navakalevaram ceremony, when they change Jagannath's body, they have so many different rituals and requirements for the particular Dara. That would be a whole another long katha to try to explain. There's many, many different books on that subject matter. But one of the requirements is if there's three trees, one for Jagannath, one for Baladev, and one for Subhadra. The tree for Lord Jagannath has to have four branches, not two, not three, not one, not 10, has to be four. And there has to be some seen on the tree, these four symbols in a natural way, the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma. Otherwise, they won't accept it. Because the original Daru that became Lord Jagannath, which appeared on the beach in Puri at that Bunky Mohan place, it had those four symbols on it. So Indradyumna Maharaj ordered his men to carry the log to the palace, but they weren't able to do it. So he said, what are you guys, weaklings or something? So he got his most powerful warriors. They couldn't budge that log. Then he ordered his whole army, hundreds and hundreds of men. Nobody could move it. They had elephants. They couldn't move it. And then the king realized that he made some mistake. And so at that time, he called for, this is very significant, I think, in the ontological identification of Jagannath, he called for Vishvavasu, that person who comes as a sabra, a pig farmer, and Vidyapati, his son-in-law, who's a Brahmin. He gave respect to them. And it said that Vishvavasu and Indradyumna Maharaj, just the two of them, took a hold of that log and they moved it suddenly, very easily, something that hundreds of men couldn't do and so many elephants couldn't do. So Jagannath, from the very beginning, he's a devotee of his devotees, and he appears when his cooperation between Indradyumna Maharaj and Vishvavasu. And so the king brought that log to the place where he was doing sacrifice, which is now Gundicha. And he was looking for a qualified artist to carve the deity. And he brought all the best different artists, and they would take their tools and start to carve the deity, and the tools would break, and without even scratching the wood. And so Indradyumna Maharaj started praying, and a mysterious artist suddenly came from the outside who was said to be Vishwakarma, and he told him, my name is Ananta Maharaj, and I can carve the deity, but I want a secluded place, and if you disturb me, then I'm going to stop. And so then at that time, he said that the other carpenters will be engaged in building 3 chariots for the deities. So this corresponds to the Anavasya period. For 15 days, that Vishwakarma, you told him as Ananta Maharaj, began carving that deity, and there was no sound from inside the workshop where he was working. Gundicha Devi, the wife of Maharaj Indradyumna, became disturbed, and she said, what's going on? He's so quiet, and he hasn't got any food, any water. It's been 15 days. Perhaps he's dead. We have to open the door. Her husband kept refusing, but she insisted. And so 15 days after, the doors were open. And that's the day that Lord Jagannath appeared in this world. So that's the day known as Snan Purnima. So those, quote, unfinished forms of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra looked very, very wonderful. And the king was concerned. He thought, oh, I did some mistake because I stopped the artist early. And then Jagannath appeared to him in a dream and told him, don't worry, these are my real forms, and you can worship me like this. And I want to give you a benediction. What would you like? And Indradyumna Maharaj said, I would like 3 benedictions. Okay, what is it? First one, I don't want any children, no male children. Because if he has a male heir, then that person will be it may become some kind of smarta system where just by his birth, he's in charge of the worship. So I don't want an heir, a male child. And I want, my dear Lord, that your hands are always wet. And what does that mean? And I want the third thing, that you don't rest in just a short time. So his hands always wet, meaning because he's always taking prasadam constantly. So this is Lord Jagannath. He's a devotee of his devotee. In the Vishnu Sahasranam, it's described in verse 244, Sevam Saratya Dutyudyam Sadhu Sadayate Saha. It said that the Lord is called Sadhu. And what I was just reading, that's Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary on it. he explains the meaning of the word sadhu, how one of the names of Lord Vishnu is sadhu, because Sevam, Saratya, Dutyadyam, Sadhu, Sadayat Tisaha. Because he accepts different services entrusted to him by his devotees, such as seva, such as being a sarati, a chariot driver, a messenger, etc. Therefore, he's called sadhu, or the one who acts according to his devotees' wishes. So this is Lord Jagannath. There's many, many examples of this. I can tell you a few that I know so many of you are Jagannath Bhaktas and you know many stories about Jagannath, but I'd like to share with you a few that you may not know. There was one devotee whose name was Madhav, and he was born in a Brahmin family in Kanyakubja. When his wife left this world, and his son grew up, he gave his son responsibility for taking care of the family, and he left home, understanding this is I should dedicate myself to the Lord. And so he came to Jagannath Puri, and he was residing there near the ocean. And Sri Madhav Das was a very sober person, and he was so absorbed in worshiping the Lord, meditating on Lord Jagannath, that he completely neglected eating and drinking. And sometimes he would fast for 2 or 3 days at a time, and he didn't feel any hunger or thirst because his mind was just completely absorbed in thinking of the Lord. Yet the Lord is anxious about the welfare of his devotees. And so Lord Jagannath put some prasadam aside for him that was offered to him during his Shainabhog, his evening offering. And he instructed Lakshmi Devi to personally take that prasadam on a golden plate to the cottage of Madhav Das. So Madhav Das was sitting in his cottage with his back to the door. When Lakshmi Devi arrived, he was thinking of the Lord and suddenly heard the sound of her ankle bells. And when he was meditating on the Lord and his consort, and when Lakshmi Devi arrived, he saw a flash of lightning in his cottage. And he opened his eyes, but he couldn't see Lakshmi Devi. But then he saw this plate of prasadam on the ground and realized this was the Lord's mercy on him. So he honored that prasadam and then kept the plate. The next day, and this is something which happens in a number of different pastimes of Lord Jagannath, when the Pandits and the Pujaris, they opened the temple door for Lord Jagannath to do their worship, they couldn't find the shrine of Bhogatali, the plate that they used for offering Bhoga between the shrine of Artik. And they became disturbed because they're going to get in big trouble. And so they started searching for it. And finally, they found the plate in the cottage of Madhav Das. And the Pandits, they beat him with a stick and they tied him up and arrested him. And it's said that although they severely beat Madhav Das, there were no marks on his body. But later in the day, when the pujaris went to dress Jagannath, they started to put some sandalwood, some chandan paste on his body, they were horrified to see bruises on the body of Jagannath. And then Jagannath told them, he said, I was the one who sent this plate of prasadam. And that's the only reason that Madhav Das accepted it. And so then the Pandits, they realized that they made some big mistake. And so they begged forgiveness from Jagannath and from Madhav Das. And Madhav Das became a little famous. But still, Madhav Das stayed very, very humble. He didn't accept any opulence or anything for himself. Once in the winter, in Puri, it doesn't generally become so cold, not like New Jersey. But sometimes it gets down to a little thing, maybe, I don't know, some evenings maybe down to 40 degrees or something Fahrenheit. And he felt very, very cold at night. And as he was shivering from the cold, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they began to shiver. And then Jagannath came and put a blanket over Madhavadas's body. On another occasion, Madhavadas had become sick and he was having loose motions. And so he went to the ocean, the bank of the ocean, he stayed there. And after some time, his body became very thin and weak. He wasn't able to fetch water. And Jagannath personally came to him as a Brahmin and started giving him water and taking care of him. And when he finally returned to external consciousness, Madhavadasi recognized the Lord, and he became very disturbed. He said, "What are you doing? You're doing menial service for somebody so fallen and wretched like me." And he said, "By doing this, you've lost your caste and you lost your position as God." And Jagannath said, "Well, what can I do? I can't tolerate even for a moment the sufferings of my devotees." And so Madhavadas said, "Okay, if this is the case, then you should take away my pangs of suffering forever, because I feel more distress by seeing you do not for me service than the physical distress I was experiencing because of the cold and the loose motions and things." And then Jagannath told him, "Look, this is a problem for me, because if I forever relieve you of all this pain and problems of your karma, then I'm going to be violating the laws of karma, which is a law that I give. So instead of violating that law, I set my position aside as God, because it's God who says this thing. I put that aside so that I can engage in your service." In this way, Madhavadas was so very, very dear to Lord Jagannath. On another occasion, there was one Digvijay Pandit who came to Jagannath Puri, and he was on a campaign to defeat all the different pundits and scholars. And someone had said, he asked who's the big pundits here, and they said, "Oh, this Madhavadas from this Brahmin family. He's very, very learned." And so he challenged Madhavadas, and Madhavadas said, I don't debate. "Well, then you should sign this patra, this letter admitting your defeat." And so Madhavadas said, "Sure, no problem." And he signed it and gave it to him. And then he left that place. He was very satisfied, and then he traveled to Kashi, and he opened the envelope when he got to Kashi, and he saw written on the letter, "Sri Madhavadas is victorious." And when the scholar, that Pandit, saw that, he became angry at Madhavadas. So he went back to Jagannath Puri and he defeated him without any debate, just like before. Again, he challenged him, and Madhavadas says, "You win. It's okay. I don't want to argue with you." And so then this time he decided, "I have to teach this upstart a lesson for humiliating me." So he hired a donkey with the man. He told him, "You have to ride in the back of this donkey with a garland of shoes around your neck, and only then am I going to be happy." And so then Madhavadas said, "No problem. Let me go take a bath and I'll do whatever you say." And so then in the meantime, Jagannath came disguised as a young Brahmin boy and defeated that Pandit in debate, and told him, "Then I'm a student of Madhavadas. He's my teacher. And because you've lost him, you have to ride in the back of that donkey around the city." So this is Lord Jagannath. There's so many stories in this regard. We'll just see how much time we have today. A very similar story to the story of Madhavadas is the story of Bandhu Mahanti, who lived in a village, Satapada. He was a very poor man, and kind of like Sudama Vipra, his wife, out of concern for him, that her husband was getting so thin and emaciated, told him that you have to do something. You have to go beg alms. You can't just sit and chant Hare Krishna and worship the Lord all day. And so finally, being nagged by his wife, he told her, he says, "I have actually a very wealthy friend, and we can go to visit him. I haven't seen him in a long time. I'd like to see him. And we go to him, and definitely he'll take care of us." And so she was very happy, and they walked for 5 days along with the children to Jagannath Puri. And they arrived to Puri late at night, and there was no food. The children were crying. They were very, very hungry. They went by the southeast corner of the temple, and there's a place here to this day. There's a small temple and a banyan tree near the southeast corner of the temple in honor of Bandhu Mahanti. And just near that place, there's water that comes out from the kitchen of Lord Jagannath, because when they cook the rice for Jagannath, they put, I don't know, 1 cup of rice to 10 cups of water or something, or 20 cups of water, and they strain the water off after they cook the rice. And so that the rice water comes out from a pipe there at that place in that southeast corner of the temple. And so that they gave that water to the children. That was their dinner. And finally they went to sleep. And in the middle of the night, Bandhu Mahanti was woke up by a young boy, very handsome boy, who brought a golden plate to him of Mahaprasad and said that the Lord did this to you, and put the plate down, and the boy disappeared. Bandhu Mahanti was very astonished. He offered obeisances to that plate of prasadam, which had the most enchanting fragrance. He circumambulated the plate, and around that time the children woke up, and they all had a Jagannath Mahaprasad feast. And the next morning, just like in the story of Madhavananda, the Pandits came and they found the golden plate gone, and they arrested Bandhu Mahanti. And then later, there's two things in many of the stories of Jagannath which happen. One is that, let's say three things. Oftentimes he steals the plate for his devotee. That happens a few times. But more often he appears in a dream of the king, and he stops around theatric and that happens in a number of different pastimes. So that king was named Virakishore, and he came in a dream of the king, and he told them that your Pandits, they arrested my devotee, Bandhu Mahanti. This is very, very bad. You have to go and you have to release him from prison. And so Maharaj Virakishore went to the prison and released Bandhu Mahanti. And they gave Bandhu Mahanti and his family the service of making sweet rice daily. Another story which we researched in one of our magazines about Lord Jagannath is in regards to Petit Pavan. And there's a few different versions of how Petit Pavan manifested outside the temple. We know that the Lord is very, very merciful. In the Niladri Mahodaya, there's a story we just told you about Indradyumna Maharaj and Vishwavasu and how they found the Daru, which became Lord Jagannath. And Indradyumna Maharaj in the Niladri Mahodaya, which is a Stala Purana, in Orissa, which describes much of the worship and tradition of Jagannath, it's described that Indradyumna Maharaj requested Lord Brahma that you personally install the deity in the temple. You personally do the ceremonies to purify the temple before the installation. And Lord Brahma said that this place, Sri Kshetra, has been manifested personally by the Supreme Lord. This is his personal place of pastimes. This is one of the Chari Dhams, it's a sacred dham. He's self-manifest here, so there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I need to do in order to purify this temple. Jagannath and his abode are eternally manifest in this material world by his mercy. So nonetheless, I'm going to put a special flag on the very top of the temple. And anyone who sees this flag from a distance and offers their respects to the Lord, they'll very easily attain liberation. And so understanding this principle, when Haridas Thakur came, who was Lord Brahma, when Lord Brahma himself came in the form of Haridas Thakur, the same personality who installed the deities originally and manifested the temple there, he was offering obeisances every day from Siddha Bakul to that flag, that place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him to stay. So another story about, a story, probably the most well-known story about the appearance of Petit Pavan Jagannath, who was a very amazing special deity. Sometimes the Videshi devotees, they come to Puri and they feel very unfortunate. They can't go inside the temple. I tell them, you don't have to go inside the temple. But Jagannath is waiting outside of the temple, just inside the doorway, to see all of you. And that's Petit Pavan Jagannath. I'll tell you an amazing story that I personally experienced. Once we had a group of devotees from Russia and Ukraine, headed by Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. And we were taking the devotees around in Puri for a week and speaking different kathas. And one day we went to the Jagannath temple. And as I would often do, I stood on a bicycle rickshaw, to speak to the devotees outside of the temple. And I told them that don't feel bad that we can't go inside the temple because we're Jagannath Ankara Kukur. We're Jagannath's dogs. Uh-huh. I, dogs are not allowed to go inside the temple, but don't feel bad. We're not just ordinary dogs. We're Jagannath's dogs. And what is the business of the dog? He has to stay outside. So I got down from the rickshaw, then I suggested that we all offer our Dandavat pranams in the dirt in front of the Jagannath Mandir and say a prayer to Lord Jagannath. And we offered this prayer in Ilachalani Basaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrbhyam Jagannatha Te Namaha, laying there in the dirt. And as I was getting up, this is a true story, there was a punda standing right in front of me who wasn't there before I offered obeisances. And he spoke in perfect English, much better than my few broken words of Odia. And he had a basket in his hands. And this is exactly word for what he said. He looked at me and said, Jagannath sent this for you. And I look inside the basket, and it was full of Jagannath Mahaprasad, but not just any Jagannath Mahaprasad. It was a Balya Bhog offering I could recognize by certain items in the basket. The Balya Bhog offering is an offering which is not given out to the general public. Only certain pandas get that. And so he said, Jagannath sent this for you. So I turned around back to the devotees and I told them, I said, so what is the business of the dog? The dog has to stay outside the house. And what does the dog do? The dog jumps up and down and it barks. And that's what we're doing out here. We're jumping up and down and we're barking in the form of our kirtan. And then what does the master do? The master throws a little bit of food to the dog. So Lord Jagannath has sent this to all of us. So Lord Jagannath is so very, very kind. He manifests himself. Sometimes the Pandits in Puri over the years, they told us that, Madhavananda, you're very unfortunate. And I say, why? And they say, well, because you can't go in and have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And I tell them, I don't have to go inside the temple to have darshan of Jagannath. I stay outside. And he appears and he comes to see us in the form of Snan Purnima, in the form of Petit Pavan Jagannath, in the form of his pastime at Rath Yatra. Before I tell the story about Petit Pavan Jagannath, I'd like to tell you another personal story I don't usually speak about, but it meant a lot to me. We made a magazine about Jagannath. We called it Petit Pavan Jagannath. And again, on the front cover, we put a little bit of subtle irony. We had a photograph of the Petit Pavan deity on the cover, and I took another separate photo of one of the signs outside the temple, which said only Hindus allowed. So the magazine said Sri Krishna Katamrita, then underneath it, the words were there, Petit Pavan, Jagannath, the most merciful Lord. And there's a picture of Petit Pavan. And underneath Petit Pavan, the deity, I put this sign, only Hindus allowed. And so the magazine was about a number of subjects, about the history, where the rule came from. Incidentally, the official formal rule barring Westerners or Bideshis from entrance inside the Jagannath Mandir, ironically, was begun by Bideshis. It was a law, a rule passed by the British when they first came and were in charge in Orissa, wanting to get support of the local people. They understood the only way to get their support is if they have the support of the Pandas. To get the support of the Pandas, they have to be on the side of Lord Jagannath. They asked the Pandas, what would you like? And the Pandas said, we would like a formal law. I think they made a rule, 16 different types of people not allowed in the temple, prostitutes, persons who make alcohol, bungies who clean the street, fishermen, etc., like that. So that's the first official law, which came from the British themselves. So we wrote about that in the magazine and different famous persons who were barred from entering to the Temple of Jagannath. And one lady from America, I don't remember her name. Maybe someone in the group here remembers and you could say something. She was born in Utah, white-skinned lady. She later became the Acharya after the person in the autobiography of a yogi, whose name also slips my mind. I'm having a senior moment. So later there was a formal meeting in Puri, and they agreed to allow her to have darshan inside the temple. So we wrote about that. We wrote about another connected subject matter, which took place just here in Puri 2 days ago, which is known as Lakshmi Narayan Vivaha or Rukmini Vivaha, the marriage of Rukmini. And on that day, they have a festival inside the temple. On the day we know as Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi, and Jagannath gets married to Lakshmi Devi. And everything's very nice. And 4 days later, it's the Snan Purnima, which is the birthday of Lord Jagannath, the day that he appeared in Gundicha. And Jagannath gets a formal bath, and they take hundreds of different pots of water from the Sonakua, from a golden well, a special well inside the Jagannath Mandir, and they bathe Lord Jagannath, and then he becomes sick. He's sitting outside the temple on the wall in the open air, getting all these pots of water. So it seems that he becomes sick. Internally, our Fakir Mambu told me years ago, the real reason is because he wanted to have that public bath so that he could see Gundicha in the distance, which is non-different from Vrindavan. He missed the Brijbasis. He wanted to see them. And his so-called sickness, because the Lord has a body which is known as Nava Yovana, and a few days later he gives Nava Yovana Darshan. There's no question of him becoming sick, but he becomes sick. He becomes heart sick, not being able to see his devotees. We're seeing him in the distance. So for 14 days, Lakshmi Devi serves her husband so nicely she doesn't sleep. After 14 days, you can't blame her. Lakshmi Devi falls asleep. And then Lord Jagannath takes his cloth, which was tied in a knot in their wedding ceremony, to his wife's cloth, and he unties the knot, and he leaves the temple to go see his girlfriends. And we call that Rath Yatra. And Lakshmi Devi wakes up the next day. She's very, very unhappy. And she asks, where's my husband, what's happening? And it's a whole long story, which goes on to Hera Panchami and the Bahuda Rath Yatra when Lord Jagannath returns, culminating in the Sunavesh, Lord Jagannath's golden dress, and Jagannath himself being locked out of the temple by Lakshmi Devi. We wrote about how Jagannath becomes locked out, how Lakshmi Devi herself becomes locked out when she goes to see one low-class woman and gives darshan to her. And this is the subject matters of that magazine. So I'd finished the text. We were getting ready to go to Europe to do some katas. And our ticket to go to have a train to go to Delhi to fly out was in 5 days. And I hadn't started the design or the layout of the magazine. It usually takes me about a month to do that nicely. And we had 5 days. It just wasn't possible. And somehow after 5 days, the magazine, the design was finished. I didn't sleep very much, but it was finished and we were ready to go. Just as I'd gone into the office and talked with Bhakti Rupa Prabhu and everything's finished, the design's all done, we're getting ready, we'll go on the train tomorrow. A Brahmin friend of ours came to our house from Puri. He said, I just came from Puri and I have something for you from Lord Jagannath. And he brought us some Mahaprasad, which we brought tears to my eyes. I thought, my God, this is very, very auspicious. Jagannath sending us Mahaprasad just at this moment when we finished the magazine. And I was amazed. And then he told me, he said that I have something else for you also. And he handed me an envelope with a card in it. And I opened the card and it was all in Odia. I can barely read Odia script now, but at that time I couldn't read any at all. And I'm looking at the card and it had my name written on it, but I couldn't understand what the writing was. So I asked our Brahmin friend, what is this? And he told me, he said, this is a formal invitation from the Jagannath Temple administration for you to go inside the Jagannath Mandir and attend a festival. I said, my God, what festival is that? And they said, it's the marriage of Jagannath and Lakshmi, the Rukmini Vivaha, which we were just writing about in the magazine. And that was going to take place 2 or 3 days after our train would leave. I turned to Krishna Kun and I told her that I think Jagannath is laughing at us. So Jagannath is very, very personal. And there's so many different stories wonderful devotees. I'd like to tell you this particular story that we researched. This is from the 1700s. There was one king of Puri whose name was Ramachandra Dev, who was a great devotee of Lord Jagannath. And one day, one of his ministers came running in to see him and said, Maharaj, there's very bad news. There's an army of Muslims coming to Puri, headed by this Muslim general named Taki Khan. And they intend to attack the temple. And so Ramachandra Dev asked him, well, how big is their army compared to ours? And he said, Maharaj, they far, far outnumber us. So Taki Khan came and he sent a message to Ramachandra Dev. And he said, and the message said, Maharaj, look, we should have a meeting. Why should so many people unnecessarily die? Let's have a personal talk. So Ramachandra Dev went. It was a trick. This is historical. This is story. And Taki Khan captured Ramachandra Dev and he put him in prison in the Barabati fort in Cuttack for a year and a day. And after a year and a day, Taki Khan came to see Ramachandra Dev, and he was very sweet to him. And he said, Maharaj, I feel very bad. You're locked up here like this. I'd like to let you out. Would you like that? And Ramachandra Dev, who had become familiar with Taki Khan's devious ways, was a little hesitant and finally said, yeah, I would like that. And so Taki Khan said, not only that, but I would also like to promise you that I'll leave Jagannath Puri alone. I won't attack Jagannath. We'll leave the deity alone and everything. Would you like that? And Ramachandra Dev, sensing that Taki Khan had some ulterior purpose, again, very slowly and rather reluctantly said, yes, I would like that. Taki Khan said, fine. So there's only one small request that I have. You have to agree to become a Muslim. And you have to marry a Muslim girl named Fatima. And Ramachandra Dev immediately agreed. If that's all that it is, then let me do that thing. And so they put a tagi, a Muslim hat, on his head. And Ramachandra Dev was released from the Barabati fort. And he came with his new wife, Fatima. And he made such a great sacrifice. But when he came back to Puri, everyone neglected him. No one wanted to see him. They said, oh, you become a Muslim now. We don't want anything to do with you. And so, feeling very disturbed and sad, like, could you close the door? Thank you. Ramachandra Dev, he did what most of us would do. He went to see one of his friends. And when he went to the house of his friend, he knocked on the door. And he said, open up, it's me, your bandhu, your friend Ramachandra Dev. And voice came from the other side of the door. I know who you are, but you're not my friend anymore. You become a Muslim, now go away. And so Ramachandra Dev, he was crushed. He'd done this great sacrifice for the benefit of the residents of Puri and for Lord Jagannath. But this is the kind of reciprocation that he gets. So he thought, anyway, I'll go to my palace in Kurda and I'll see Ramachandra Dev had many wives there. When he arrived at his palace, he found that the gates were closed. So he pounded on the gate, said, open up, it's me, your husband, Ramachandra Dev. And the voices of the ladies came from the other side of the wall, and they said, you're not our husband anymore. You become a Muslim. Now we don't want anything to do with you. We're going home to our fathers. And so Ramachandra Dev had made this great sacrifice, benefit of Lord Jagannath and for the devotees. And all that he gets in reciprocation is that everybody shuns him, everyone hates him. So then he thought to himself, well, anyway, that's okay. Let me be cursed by the whole world, but I still have one person. I have Lord Jagannath. And so Ramachandra Dev went to the temple to have darshan of Lord Jagannath. When he arrived at the temple, the chokidars, the guards, just said, "Hey, probation is shade, entrance forbidden." And Ramachandra Dev said, "Well, it's me, the king of Puri, let me in." He said, "Maharaj, we know who you are, but you married a Muslim girl. You're a Muslim now, you can't enter into thy temple." So it's one thing to lose your friends, to lose appreciation from society, to be kicked out of your temple because you took initiation from the wrong person, or to be shunned from society, to lose your wives, your husband, your children. But it's another thing to be rejected by the Lord. And so Ramachandra Dev, he had no one. He didn't even have Lord Jagannath as solace. And so he was just crying and crying. And finally, he used to come every night in front of the Jagannath Mandir. And that time, the road in front of the Jagannath Mandir, that Borodanda, was a dirt road. A little over, about 100 years ago, that road was paved by friend of ours, Krishna Abhishek Prabhu, his grandfather paved that road. That was his service. Krishna Abhishek Prabhu was a disciple, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, PhD from University of Chicago. So Ramachandra Dev was laying there in the dirt in front of the temple and just crying and crying, and the ground had become wet from his tears. And he was deciding, better I just kill myself. What's the purpose of living? I don't have anybody. Even Lord Jagannath has rejected me. And suddenly he heard a very beautiful sound. And there was a voice which spoke to him and said, "Hey, Ramachandra Dev, I never forgot you. You're my dear devotee. And I hold you very, very dear." And Ramachandra Dev opened his eyes and saw before him Lord Jagannath. And then he really began to cry. And so every night he started doing like that, coming and praying before the temple. And every night Lord Jagannath was coming out to see him. And after some time, they noticed, the Pandits, that this mysterious thing, that there was a trail of doina leaves and flowers coming from the temple to outside in the road. They would find it every morning when they would come, and something was going on at night, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. The head priest of the temple was Mahalakshmi Panda at that time. And around that time, he had a dream, and Jagannath came to him and told him, interestingly to me, he could have told him, "You let my devotee inside the temple," but he didn't say that. He told him that this Ramachandra Dev is very dear to me, and I want you to install a deity of me at the doorway so that he can have darshan anytime he comes. And that deity is still there today. That's the deity of Petit Pavan Jagannath. Jagannath is so very, very merciful. Jagannath Puri is a place where three things are found here. There's Aishvarya, there's great opulence. He lives in the Sri Mandir. There's Odarja, there's great munificence and kindness. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes here, and he's known as Gajapati Tarana, the deliverer of Maharaj Prataparudra. He's known as Sarvabhauma Shodhana, the person who purified Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So it's a place of great mercy. The Lord is known as Petit Pavan. It's also a place of great sweetness. And Lord Jagannath has his pastime wearing his Buddha Shringara Vesh, his dress for the gopis every evening, which includes the Gita Govinda Kandua, the cloth which has verses on it from the Gita Govinda. And that time that they paste tulsi leaves on his heart, which have the word Radha written on them. And they say the gopis come to have darshan every night at that time. My Guru Maharaj used to say that Jagannath is Aishvarya Madhurya Yugala Milan. He's a combined form of both opulence and sweetness. So it's a little confusing sometimes. We find two considerations in Jagannath Puri. In Vrindavan, there's one consideration. It's Madhurya Moidam. It's a place of sweetness. But in Puri, we find Smarta Bichar, the consideration of the Smarta Pandit, Smarta Brahmins. And you're supposed to fast when you go there, and you shave your head, and you go and have darshan of Jagannath. You take bath in 5 different sacred places. You do these rules and different things. And that's described in the Skanda Purana and different Puranas and things. That's one consideration. But another consideration for the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is what our Srila Prabhupada called Goswami Vichar. And that's a consideration of Sri Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they have a completely different understanding of that. So from this aparavichara, from this external consideration, it seems that Lord Jagannath is not very merciful because he doesn't allow the foreign devotees inside the temple. And again, sometimes the pandas, one moment, please. As I was telling you, sometimes our friends, some of our Pandit friends tell us that you're very unfortunate. You say, why? Because you can't go inside the Jagannath Mandir. And then I ask them, sometimes I tell them what I said before, other times I say, you're a Panda, you know Shastra Siddhanta. Please tell me, who is more dear to Krishna, the Brijbasis or the Dwarkabasis? And the Pandits say, everybody knows that the Brijbasis are the most dear devotees. And I tell them, no, it's a lie. How can you say that? Krishna left them, but he was in Dwarka, and the Dwarkabasis got darshan of him every day. Clearly, he had more love for the Dwarkabasis than for the Brijbasis, isn't it? No. Actually, Krishna gives more mercy for the Brijbasis. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in one commentary, explains that to show the glories of the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna leaves them and doesn't give darshan to them, so they cry in separation. He says, in the same way that a goldsmith, to show the value of gold, melts the gold with great heat, to show that there's no alloys, there's no tin or metal or any other metals inside that gold, it's pure gold. So in the same way, Krishna melts the heart of the gopis to show their purity. So really, Krishna gives more mercy to the Brijbasis by not giving them darshan. So don't think that Lord Jagannath is a non-merciful person, he's an angry person, or that he's only Purinath, or only Odiyanath, or Hindunath, because he doesn't allow the Videshis to enter inside the Jagannath Mandir. Lakshmi Devi herself is locked out sometimes. Jagannath is locked out. And great devotees like Dashabari and Salabeg, Ramachandra Dev, I would love to tell the story of Salabeg also. They're also locked out. I'd like to just finish with a few words from a song, very popular song written by Salabeg, that some of you know. Ekata Bhakata Jivan. That my dear Jagannath, Ekata Bhakata Jivan, the devotees, your devotees are your life and soul. Bhakata Nimante Tor Shanka Chakra China. That it's for the satisfaction of the devotees, Bhakata Nimante Tor Shanka Chakra China, that you take these symbols of the conch, the disc, and the club, and the lotus flower in your hands. Bhakata to pita mata bhakata to bandhu bhakata hitari to nama kripa sindhu. He said that out of love, sometimes bhakata to pita mata, sometimes the devotees act like your father and mother. And sometimes bhakata to bandhu, they act like your intimate friends. Bhakata hitari tor nama kripa sindhu. And because you're so merciful, Salabeg singing this to Jagannath, you're so merciful, you allow them to relish these relationships. Therefore, your name, Bhakata hitari tor nama kripa sindhu, your name is Kripa Sindhu. You're the ocean of mercy. Denu pache pache vatsa game kira lobhe bhakata pachari tuhi tau sehi bhave. In the same way that a calf runs after the mother, Denu pache pache vatsa game kira lobe, being greedy kira lobe for some milk. In the same way, bhakata pachari tuhi tau sehi bhave. You have this mood that you're running after the love of your devotees, just like that calf is very hungry for the milk of its mother. Bapa mo mugala poa ma mo brahmani ekule jamili Hindu nakai modapani. He said, my dear Lord, who am I? I have a Muslim father, I have a Brahmin mother. Ekuli Jamili, my birth, in Hindu Nakai Mordapani, they won't even take water from me, the Hindus. They consider me to be an untouchable person. Kahe sala bega hina chatire mujavan shiranga charana binu najana ian. And so this Salabeg, Hina Salabeg, this very fallen, lowly Salabeg, he says, Jatira Mujavan. Although I'm born in a Muslim family, he says, Sri Rangacharana Bina, Najanana Iyana. I don't know anything other than your reddish lotus feet. So we can't separate the Lord from his devotees. When the Lord appears, it indicates that the devotees are there. When the devotees appear, it means that the Lord is going to appear there. And Lord Jagannath, he's Bhaktavatsala. Mad Bhaktanam Vinodartam. It says in Padma Purana that the only reason that I come is to give pleasure to my devotees. So this quality of Bhaktavatsalya, this is the emperor. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, of all the other qualities of the Lord. I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I don't know if there's time for any questions or discussion or anything. I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'm going to turn this over.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It was very enlivening and very enlightening. You going over such beautiful pastimes wherein you shared a lot of your personal relationship you had built over a period of time with Lord Jagannath, especially the invitation from the temple for Jagannath Rukmini Vivaha you shared. And you, yeah, yes, Prabhu. You have a question? Sudhakar Krishna Prabhu, please go ahead.
Prabhu, not for Madhavan Prabhu. I need somebody to guide me how to make chida dehi because I'm going for an event at 4 o'clock. I want to make chida dehi and go. And I want to know at what time I should make so it doesn't get spoiled and all that. Because I'm going for some events, I want to take some chida dehi.
That will answer to you. Don't worry. So we'll take offline. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. Okay. I'll just.
Yeah, sorry, Prabhu. Sorry. So thank you so much, Prabhu. It was very interesting to hear so many of your pastimes about how you go about writing. You have so much of energy, and it's really inspiration to read all your research. So we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart to start the Jagannath Shravan Festival with such an important topic. So, if we would like to open up for a few questions, if anybody would like to ask, Madhavananda Prabhu.
Um, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can I ask Prabhuji?
Yes, Srinivas Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavot Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very nice class I heard about Jagannath after a long time. Thank you for sharing all your experiences and very nice things to remember in life. Prabhuji, you said Jagannath loves Brajavasis or Dwarkavasis. Actually, I could not get that because in front of God, everyone is same. But why this difference that he will show, Prabhuji?
Jagannatha Samaham he's equal to everyone, but at the same time, he shows special favor to those very dear, loving devotees. And it's described that Vrindavana Paritiga Padikam Nagachati. The Krishna never even takes one step out of Vrindavan because the Brijbasis are so very, very dear to him. So although he seems to have left the Brijbasis, and it may appear, even Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains, it may appear that Krishna, that their love is not so pure, and the love of the Dwarka Basis is more pure, it's higher than the love of the Brijbasis. It may appear like that, but it's not a fact. And the real reason why Krishna does that, he leaves and he says, Ayasha, I'm going to return. And by saying that, he puts a lock on the door, so to speak, of their life, so the Brijbasis can't commit suicide. And they're waiting for him. And in that way, Krishna turns their hearts. And he applies this Vipralamba Agni, or the fire of separation, to their hearts to show the purity of their love. So although all devotees are dear to the Lord, it's not that the gopis are the same to Krishna as the residents of Vaikuntha or the residents of Ayodhya or this or that. Certainly all the devotees are dear to the Lord, but there's different gradations also. And we learn that very important lesson from Srila Sanatana Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one more question. If you don't mind, I will ask. It's a short question only, but maybe your answer may be long, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as you said, the Britishers have actually created that rule: foreigners should not enter the temple. And now all the foreigners that are coming are very elevated devotees, Prabhuji. What I hear and I see to my best of my knowledge. In this case, and also we know that Vaishnava is above everyone, even Brahmanas who are very devotees also. In this case, still why Jagannath or the temple, big people are not mending the rule that the people can enter with some oath or something that they believe God. Because even I heard, I don't know, I can't comment, but I'm just trying, Prabhuji. My Guru Maharaj, I think Jayapata Guru Maharaj also, he never entered the temple, Prabhuji. Is it correct?
As far as I know, Maharaj never went inside.
That's
Yeah.
what they are all great Vaishnavas, and we know Vaishnava is the ultimate one who really is serving the Lord directly. So in this case, why the things are not being corrected, Prabhuji? Yes,
My
sorry,
Guru
Prabhu. My question is wrong, but I
No,
thought of asking.
it's a beautiful question. The best questions are the honest questions, which especially ones which people are uncomfortable to ask. So my Guru Maharaj used to say there's two considerations, aparavichar, or the apparent consideration, and tattva vichar, or the absolute consideration. So from aparavichar, it appears that the pandas are racist, and they're in the bodily conception, and they're doing a great aparad, and they've committed some terrible offense, and they should allow the Bideshi devotees inside the temple. Just as a personal note, I personally, my conviction, I think it's going to happen within my lifetime. I think just now, recently, just behind me here, we had the vice president of the Digha temple in West Bengal staying with us.
Hare
You
Krishna.
look here, you can see his smile there. So this temple, these huge temples, been probably over 1 million people come and visit it since it opened recently. Jayapataka Maharaj opened the temple, and that temple is open for Bideshis. And the Pandas are a little uncomfortable here in Puri about it. But this is Krishna's arrangement. And this is what I'm coming to secondly. There's two considerations, aparavichar and tattva vichar, an external consideration and an internal consideration. By saying that, I don't mean to suggest that the external consideration is useless or something that we shouldn't ever look at and has no meaning. It has meaning. And some devotees may look into seeing different ways that the Bideshis can be allowed inside the temple. But more significant to me, I've been trained, is to look for the tattva vichar, the absolute consideration. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he declared that Jagannath Puri is Vipralamba Ketra, or the place of separation. And it was here, we see in Anchalila chapter 20 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the last chapter, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offers prayers to Jagannath. And he says, Adarshana Mahatam Kadotuva, Mat Prananatastu Seva Napra, that whether you give me darshan or don't give me darshan, you're the Lord of my life. And so that I feel should be my mood. And for me, I don't blame the Pandas. I had some pandits tell me once that there's another story we could have told about Jagannath in relationship with Kabir Das. You may know who Kabir Das is. Kabir Das was a kind of a Muslim or a Hindu. It's kind of hard to say. I think he came from a Muslim family, but he was a devotee of Jagannath, devotee of Krishna. And Kabir Das, when he came to Puri, he went inside the temple, but someone recognized his associate as a Muslim, and they threw them out, wouldn't allow them darshan. And so Kabir Das was sitting on the beach, lamenting and meditating and praying to Lord Jagannath. And Jagannath came in a dream to the king and told him, "This is my dear devotee, Kabir Das," and ordered that the Pandas go with a palanquin and put Kabir Das on the palanquin and carry him on a palanquin into the Jagannath Mandir. The king of Puri doesn't go on a palanquin inside the Jagannath Mandir. It's a great offense to be carried on a palanquin into the temple, but Jagannath ordered that. And they did that thing. So some of the pundits have told me, Madhavananda, we have no problem. If Jagannath orders us, we'll carry you on a palanquin. And that's what I want to see. I don't blame the pundits. I blame Lord Jagannath. And if Jagannath wants to abuse me, if Jagannath doesn't want to let me have darshan, a darshan mama hatam karotiva, still mat prananatas tu seva napraha, I'll wear that abuse as an ornament on my head and accept that as a blessing of the Lord, just as Krishna apparently abused the Brijbasis. But that abuse was just aparavichar, just an apparent consideration. I take happiness in this consideration. And I'm not trying to minimize the other legal kind of conception, and devotees may operate in that regard. I'm not even trying to say one is necessarily higher than the other. But in my situation, what do? I'm no one. But I had this conviction in my heart, and this is what makes me happy. Lakshmi Devi herself gets locked out. Jagannath, every year at Rath Yatra, when he comes back after seeing his girlfriends, Lakshmi Devi, his wife's very unhappy, and he gets locked out of the temple. It's a beautiful feature of this place known as Vipralamba Kshetra. That's my humble understanding, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for giving us such a beautiful answer. Murari Prem Prabhu, do you have a question for Prabhuji? Please go ahead.
Yes. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada. I just had a quick question. What are the qualifications, if any, necessary for one to carve a Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Sudarshan deities?
Well, our system is what? Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shingaratan Mandira Marjana Yuktasya Bhaktams Chanayun Jatopi. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote this in Gurvashtaka, that our deity worship is dependent on our guru. So we can't approach Krishna directly. Ye me bhakta jana partana me bhakta sate jana. Krishna says, those people say they're my devotee, they're not my devotee. Mad bhaktanam chaye bhaktas te me bhakta tamo mataha. But the person's devotee of my devotee, that's my real devotee. So in our case, what is the qualification to carve Lord Jagannath with Srila Prabhupada? Well, Prabhupada ordered Shyamasundar Prabhu to do that. Shyamasundar Prabhu, with my pranams at his lotus feet, such a wonderful, exalted Vaishnava, but for some external apparent reason, he was a drug user, abuser, a drug seller just before he came to Krishna consciousness. In fact, he had to go to prison for some time after he took initiation from Srila Prabhupada, because they caught him for some previous offenses. And so after being let out of jail, he was a carpenter. He knew how to carve things. Prabhupada told him to make deities of Jagannath. And so he started carving those first deities, which are there to this day in Berkeley, California. And one day Srila Prabhupada came to see how the work was going. And he found that Shyamasundar Prabhu was smoking a cigarette while he was carving the deities, and he was smoking the cigarette and looking at the deities and carving a little bit. And he put his cigarette on the head of Jagannath because he didn't have anywhere to put the cigarette as he was carving. And Srila Prabhupada came and found him in that way. And Prabhupada told him, he apologized to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada just told him, don't smoke so many. And by Prabhupada's blessing, he was able to give that up. So what is the qualification? That's one answer. On the other hand, I had the good fortune of meeting one Bhubaneswar Mahapatra, I believe his name was. He was in a family of artists, Patachitra artists. He passed away a few years ago. He lives near the Gambhira. And his family, for many generations, had the service of making the what do you call it? Doing the Anavasrapati or Anusarapati. The Anusarapati is a painting of Jagannath, Baladi, Subhadra in kind of like Vishnu, Lakshmi forms, which is worshipped inside the temple during the Anavasra when no one has darshan of Jagannath. So that deity, that painting is a deity, and he makes that painting. So when he's making that painting, traditionally they sleep on the floor. They observe 4 regulated principles, including celibacy and vegetarian. They take bath before they do the painting. They put on clean cloth. They do achaman. It's like a deity that they're worshiping. So that's another consideration. But again, it depends. Yuktasya bhaktams chanayun jatopi. It depends on how our guru is engaging us. And Shamasundar Prabhu's story is a little unique, I think. I wouldn't recommend that as a general standard. Is that helpful, Prabhuji?
Yes, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
What a
Hare Krishna.
wonderful answer. So do you have time for a question, Madhavananda Prabhu?
Yeah, maybe real quick. I feel so happy to be in association with all of you, because the only way we can have darshan of the Lord is by the mercy of the devotees. And I see him and Jagannath Prabhu, yourself, and all the devotees here. You're such dear devotees of Jagannath. I feel very blessed in your sangha. But I should be quick because I have a birthday
Yeah.
party for a little girl I'm supposed to be going to.
We're trying hard, Prabhu, to be a little devotee. So Ashish Prabhu, so you want to go quick and ask questions?
Yes, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam everyone. Prabhu, wonderful you describe your own experience with the Jagannath very nicely, very heart touching, Prabhu. So one question I have, Prabhu, regarding the history, the Puri Jagannath temple, how old it is? It is telling that from the Indradhamma Maharaj, or how old is it actually? How old
How old
it
are
is?
the deities? How old is the temple? What is the question?
No, no. How old this is this temple? How old? Puri Jagannath temple?
The current temple is said to be built by Maharaj Chodagangadev around 900 years ago. But according to the tradition of the Jagannath Mandir, this temple is built on top of another temple, which is built on top of another temple, built on top of another temple, and it dates back all the way to Satya Yuga, when it was built by Maharaj Indrajumna, and the deity was installed by Lord Brahma. Interestingly, the Pandas in Puri, they refused to allow the Indian Archaeological Survey to come and examine the ground. So we really can't prove that or disprove that, but that's the tradition.
Very nice, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay,
So much
Dandavat.
for enlightening us on so many details inside the temple, outside the temple, through the scriptural references. So we would like to thank you from the bottom of our heart, Madhavananda Prabhu, for your time and for your deep research-based katha quoting from the scriptures. We really relished your katha, and we hope you come to a temple. A few years back, you were in our temple during the Snan Yatra, 3-4 years back. You had come, and we'll be having Snan Yatra in a few days, and we will be missing you this time. So we'd like to thank you from the bottom of our heart, from the congregation, and by saying, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari.
Haribol,
Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol.
There's one more question written here in the chat. I can address that very quickly if you'd like.
Please, Prabhu.
HKP, I'm not sure who that is. Says you said
HKP Prabhu, can you ask the question?
Harikishore.
Harikishore Prabhu. Harikishore Prabhu, you have a question, Prabhu?
He says, you said that you got an invitation to the temple. Did you then go? No, I didn't go. And honestly, I I don't think for one second that they would have let me inside. But it doesn't matter to me. I got an invitation. I wasn't able to go inside because I had something which for me was much higher even than having darshan of Lord Jagannath, and that was to serve my Guru Maharaj and serve Srila Prabhupada by doing kathas. We had a ticket. I had to international flight ticket to get out of Delhi to go to Europe. So I don't know. We didn't try. We weren't in Puri when that Rukmini Vivaha took place, which was my invitation. So I can't really say, but as again, for me, more important than being able to go inside is to have an invitation. That means a lot to me. I have a few friends and some wonderful exalted devotees who've snuck inside the temple, and that's okay. That's the Lord's pastime with them, and they're very exalted, and they had a wonderful darshan. But for me, I couldn't ever see myself doing that. I'm not going to sneak inside. I have too much abhiman. If Jagannath doesn't want to let me inside, fine. I'm not going to go inside unless he's going to invite me. I'm just not going to do it.
Maybe Prabhuji, like
Okay.
you said, the one of the stories that Jagannath came outside, he may come to you also. Who knows, Prabhuji?
Well, I'll tell you one more little story about Jagannath. It's been short. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Sri Rangam, staying in the house of Venkata Bhatta, he made deities with his own hands. And those deities are still there today. I've had darshan of them. What deities did he make? Did he make Radha Krishna? Or he made deities of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra with his own hands. Now, some years I went and had darshan. I saw written, I think in Telugu, on the walls, there were some verses, and I asked him, well, what are these verses? I don't read Telugu. And so this one of his says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It was the Sikshastika prayers on the walls there. And some years ago, a friend of ours, Madhuri Kadambani Mataji, who's a very talented artist, she's from Russia. Somehow she's very expert at refurbishing deities. They invited her, requested her to refurbish those ancient deities that were made by the hands of Mahaprabhu. So prior to that, I always wanted to worship Jagannath, but I was wanting something special. Jagannath should come on his own to me, as you're just saying. So back to this Mataji, they gave her this service. She had to repaint the deity. So repaint the deity, she had to take the old paint off. She had to scrape that paint off, and a little bit of wood came off and a little bit of the paint. So she took that and she made those into beads. And later she gave my wife and I 4 of those beads from the body of Jagannath that were made by the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I felt, now Jagannath has come to us and we keep him on our altar. And Jagannath has come to me today by having darshan with all of you and being able to share some katha. Thank you all very much.
Yes.
Wonderful, Prabhuji.
So, hope Prabhu, the rendezvous of you and Lord Jagannath continues again and again, so that you could share those mercy to us in your upcoming courses and classes. Thank you so much. Dandot Pranam.
I have a hope that by your prayers, maybe I'll be in New Jersey again. Maybe next year. We're thinking to come to the States next year, possibly.
Please come, Prabhu. You are always invited to ISKCON of Central New Jersey. This Jagannath Sravan festival is incomplete without you, and every year we invite you.
Anadi Krishna Prabhu just shared a picture in the chat, which everyone should look at quickly, because as soon as we shut this off, you won't be able to see it. This is a photo of those deities that were made by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I recognize this photo too. This was after Madhuri Kadambani repainted the deities. So you can see this beautiful human-like forms of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra made by the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. I should run and have a little girl to go and see.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your time and kindness. Dandavat Pranam, and have a great rest of your day. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Jagannath.
Jai
Jagannath. Hari Bol. Jai Jagannath. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
We'll have quick announcements. Thank you very much, Madhavananda Prabhu. This is your home, So Central New Jersey is your home. So we're eagerly waiting for you. So this year or next year, whenever it is possible.
I don't know if there's a place for me to stay out of the rain and the cold there, or if there's a place where I can get some prasadam. But if I can have a little tiny corner in the hearts of the devotees there, sometimes then I'll be very happy with that.
Anytime. Definitely.
Our hearts are open, our homes are open for you. So you can stay wherever one of our devotees' house. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
You are anytime welcome to stay in our house, bro. Please come.
Shri Jagannath Baladev Srimati Subhadramai Sudarshan Ju Ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai Jai.
Madhavananda Prabhu ki jai.
Jai
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Please join today evening for Nityananda Prabhu's Mercy Festival. Today is the Raghunath Das Goswami received greatest mercy to attain Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to meet Jagannath Puri. So today we'll be celebrating Chida Dahi Panihati Festival, which means the poha with yogurt, condensed milk, sugar, lots of fruits, various types of fruits. Sometimes we make salty and whatnot, Italian, Mexican, so many varieties. So please join, bring whatever you want to bring today evening by 5:30 so that we can prepare that offer to the Lord Jagannath, Radha Shyam Sundar, Shri Gaurnitai, and Shri Prabhupada, and we can distribute. We can have a picnic of C&J right at the temple with all the devotees association. So, and upcoming Radha Yatra is coming up. Snana Yatra first, Lord Jagannath birthday, which is this Tuesday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Please join, don't miss it. Next one is C&J Snana Yatra is also there on Sunday evening. Then New York Radha Yatra, 50th Radha Yatra, important Radha Yatra. Many devotees, many Maharaj, Sannyasis, Prabhupada disciples will be there. Please join. That is on the Saturday. We have bus going from our temple. If you like to register, please send us a message or go to the Sankarshan Prabhu has posted a link in Japatan. If you don't have it, please contact one of us so we can provide you the details. And June 26th is the actual day Radha Yatra, Thursday. His Holiness Janardhan Swami Maharaj will be there as well. And then June 28th is Atlantic City, our own Radha Yatra, and the boardwalk. So please join for that. A lot of help is needed. Please message us if you like to help in any way. Morning cooking starts at 4:30 a.m. till 9. Then loading into the truck. Prasadam serving will be there at 2 p.m. Radha Yatra will start at 12 sharp. Try to reach 12:30 max. So those are the quick announcements. Thank you very much for your kind association. See you all in the evening. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Sam Jagannath Prabhu, for a nice class arranging. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, all Jagannath Mercy. We'll see next Saturday, also Sunday. Also, we'll have a wonderful speaker on Lord Jagannath. Thank you so much for those wonderful questions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.